I apologize in advance if I am out of line here.
Brace yourselves, boys. Going in.
Am I hallucinating here? Just what in the hell do you think you are?
I'm not reading. I'm just looking at pictures.
Welcome to the Cold Hard Truth.
Welcome, everybody. Another week lined up here at the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. I am your host, Matthew Long. It's been an interesting day today. A lot of people seem to really be getting ready for college football this weekend. People are getting geared up. There's some really big games that are going on this week. A lot of question to make it out of the with the position or in a position to be in the Final Four when we get to the last week of the season. Notre Dame is going to play Miami. I have Miami. In my opinion, the Miami Hurricanes are going to lose that game. I have Notre Dame winning. But the thing is, Notre Dame, without a doubt, I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. They can line up these schedules, which puts them in good position at the end of the year in front of the committee to be in a position where they are they look good because they've had a competitive schedule, a lot of quality wins, and the one loss that they have being at the beginning of the year to Georgia, who is currently the number one team in the country. Again, last week we talked about that. We talked about if we agreed or didn't agree with the college football playoff first poll. And Kevin and I pretty much across the board were in agreement with at least the top 7 teams. This, obviously, with the shakeups, the teams are looking a bit different than last week. Obviously, both Ohio State got throttled and Penn State, both losing, are going to fall from grace. And we'll go over the top 25. I'll go over the top 10, and then we'll get into the other top 25 teams throughout the show as well. So I'll definitely back some of those off here shortly. I have an article. I put an article out last week. It was at the end of last week, and for some reason it didn't auto post it. But I reposted it up today, and it's something, I guess, again, I don't know if somebody read what I wrote, or if it's just coincidence people started kind of catching on and talking about this, but the article is, has Aaron Rodgers played his last game in Green Bay? And a lot of people laugh. Why would it be his last game? His contract's all the way through 2019. So 2020, beginning of the league year 2020, he's a free agent, an unrestricted free agent. So why would you say that? Has he played his last game? Didn't you see Hundley? Brent Hundley didn't look like he's heir apparent or the guy that you want in there racing Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, he looks like a developmental quarterback, somebody that you can have in there as a backup, but didn't appear to be the guy to replace Aaron Rodgers. So I'll elaborate on that a little bit more. For those of you who haven't read the full article, it is available over on the CHTonsports.com, where you can read all the content that we put up over there. The Cold Hard Truth on Sports website, as well as the show. You can listen to this show and all the other shows on the Cold Hard Truth on Sports website or on the GoLong Media network. Just click on the listen link up in the upper left-hand corner, and you can listen to any of the shows we have here. So if you're listening to this tonight, thank you. I know a lot of people listen live through Blog Talk Radio. I appreciate you guys all listening in there. And some of you listen live on the Spreaker app. So I know with Blog Talk, it can be kind of difficult to listen. That's another reason why we continue to try and find new ways to syndicate the show, new partners to bring on to make the show more available. Now, normally we're available on YouTube Live. We're going through some restructuring through equipment-wise, so we have been off for a couple weeks off YouTube Live, so I anticipate either next week or the week after being back on YouTube Live, but some of you who are on YouTube can listen to the audio version of the show that we syndicate over on the YouTube channel, the CHT on Sports YouTube channel as well. So, we try to get it out there. A lot of you listen on Spreaker, the Spreaker app. Like I was saying, the Spreaker app, you can listen to the show live. I'm looking at the live numbers here. More and more people are logging on to, I see it listening in right now on the Spreaker app, which I, again, very much appreciate. However you listen, whichever way you want to listen to the show, I very much appreciate it. Even the people that I see in the comment section, trolling. I had an incident of I think it was a famous troll today. It's always weird when somebody has the blue check mark by their name doing the trolling. But, people. You can go to my timeline and see who it is on Twitter. Usually it's people without pictures that do the trolling, but sometimes other people do. Again, I don't know if it's trolling or they just weren't feeling the vibe, I guess. I don't know. People. You never know. Anyways, I appreciate them. I appreciate their candor last night and this afternoon. But anyways, we're going to keep moving on with the show. If you guys want to call in, I'm with calls tonight. I don't know. But the number to call in, if we take some calls, we might take some calls, 347-237-5539. Again, that's 347-237-5539. That's the number to always call in. Now, you save it in your phone. We don't generally take tons of phone calls. If you are out and for whatever reason you can't get apps to work because of data or whatever, and you just want to use minutes, you can call in and listen to the show. Because that's the first thing it goes into. It'll put you on hold. It'll tell you, it'll put you in the queue. So I'll see here in the queue. I may or may not bring you on, but when I take you off of the call, I'm not going to hang up. I don't hang up. I'll put you on mute. If you want to hang up, you can, but I just put people on mute. I don't hang up. So, all right, I'm seeing the message board over. You can message. You can direct message me on Facebook at Matt Long Sports or tweet at me at Matt Long Sports. We're trying to actively work and be a bit more active on Twitter tonight because they are celebrating moving 140 characters to 80 characters. So now we can say twice as much in one tweet. Who has the time? I'm happy because 140 characters. I mean, you got to get. It's tough. It's tough in 140 characters to put out just quality writing as far as punctuation and spelling. Because evidently, whenever you report on sports, people can't differentiate between some of the reporting and the opinions. So, it's okay. It's common. It's actually pretty common because that's one of the issues we see today as far as media, the news media. What is the opinion part? What is the news part? How do you differentiate between them? And when they're delivering the news, what's the hyperbole? What is the part that they're just making assumptions on? And some of that's tough to draw the difference between. I know they try to, sometimes the news will try to depict the situation a certain way, and they tend to go into hypotheticals, which kind of veers off track with news, with the news reporting part, because the hypotheticals really don't apply to the news itself as much as it does understanding a bigger scope of a story. So that's, you get some mix up in there. So and then I will go over the picks tonight for this week, week 11 in college football coming up here. So great show on set up for us. I'm gonna lead the show off here with the top 10, the college football playoff top 10 of the week. So we'll get started. What was that? Okay. Oh, yeah. So applause. I appreciate it. So applause. All right, thanks. All right, so the college football top 10. This week, we're seeing 4 teams that are undefeated in the top 10. One team with 2 losses has found its way into the top 10 this week. So let's get over those. I know showing not so much love for UCF. I know the people in Central Florida ranked 18th last week, still at 18th this week. So I will we'll address that at one point during the show, whether they get in or not. So starting at number 10, we have the first 2-loss team in the top 10 for the college football playoff rankings. The committee puts in Auburn, which is a solid choice, I think, to be in the top 10. They're the second best team in the West without question, and their losses have come to Clemson, who is also a top 10 team, and LSU, who's definitely a team that belongs in the top 25. And again, that was a 3-point loss or 4-point loss to LSU. Again, LSU being one of those teams that are in the top 25 as well. And we did see them fall, by the way. And I will tell you, they're still in the top 25, but they did fall a little bit. So Auburn, I'm all right being there. I don't think that they will end up being there in the top 10 when this is all said and done. They have a pretty hefty schedule still in front of them to be able to really see if they're going to be able to manage this spot, top 10 spot. This is the first time this season that we've really seen them push for a quality top 10 position in the ranking. And obviously this is the first time they creep into the top 10 for the college football playoff committee. But the remaining games are at home against Georgia. They have Louisiana Monroe also on November 18th. And just a little news I broke earlier this morning, Florida State is working on rescheduling that Louisiana Monroe game for December the 2nd. The Seminoles are desperately trying to get to that 6th win to get bowl eligible. So I look forward to seeing the game and how well that they play. It would just be a shame if they end up rescheduling that game and end up losing it anyways. I doubt that they will. Seminoles played a very strong game. The defense was flying all over the place this weekend. They looked really good this weekend, and Florida State seems to kind of be rolling there. But Auburn faces this weekend, the 11th, 3:30 on CBS. You can catch them against number 1 ranked Georgia. That will be a really good game, and that's one of the highlight games of this week. We'll get into on college football picks. Again, Louisiana Monroe, like I said, on the 18th, the following week, and then on the day after Thanksgiving, the 25th of November, they will play Alabama at home. So that's a big edge for them. These last 4 games of the season come at home. They did a great job last weekend tying up and have an impressive 42-27 win over Texas A&M. The fourth quarter felt kind of shaky. The second half altogether felt kind of shaky at times for Auburn, and they really allowed Texas A&M to get back into the game. So hopefully with what they learned to close out that game, they're going to be able to take those things into the game against Georgia and Alabama. Now, my preseason pick, I had Auburn losing to Georgia and beating Alabama. So that was preseason. We'll see where we get at here. They're looking pretty much how I picked them to look this season so far. We'll see how it ends up, but I had them ending with 3 losses, 2 LSU, 2 Clemson, and 2 Georgia. I had that preseason, them losing those 3 games. We'll see how they get through it. It'll be a real interesting weekend, and that's one of our marquee games of the week. 2 top 10 teams facing off against each other on CBS at 3:30. So, and that's interesting. I like that they're kind of mixing these games up. They're not putting them all on in prime time. They're mixing them up throughout the day, getting the opportunity to see good quality games throughout the day. The networks have done a great job of spreading these games around, making sure that they're accessible. The only issues I've had is I've been out a few times, and I've been trying to watch games on my phone, but a couple weeks with NFL and with a couple college games, it wasn't allowing me to watch it on my phone. It was telling me I could watch it on my mobile device, my computer, or one of my television devices, or cable television. So everywhere but my phone, basically. So that was a little off-putting. I didn't have a problem with it last week. It was mainly the week before last, but it was a problem. But it wasn't last week, so they did a great job there. So now we're getting into now number 9 is Washington. The Washington Huskies are the lone representative in the top 10 for the Pac-12. They have done a bang-up job this season trying to stay on task. One slip-up against Arizona State. It was a tough game. They just had a ton of problems in that game. It was a bad game. They ended up losing 13-7. Which is kind of surprising because they haven't scored less than 30 points in any other game this entire season. So Arizona State obviously did something unique and interesting in that particular game. I mean, they're 5-4 on the season and 4-2 in conference, but taking down Washington was a big upset for Arizona State. But after that, they took care of business, beating UCLA 44-23, and then just last week, holding Willie Taggart's team, the high-flying, high-scoring Oregon offense, to only 3 points, beating them 38-3, and it was a pretty one-sided game the entire time. Willie Taggart has done, to comment, he's done a tremendous job there in Oregon, just picking up the pieces and working with the talent that he has there after, a couple pretty dead seasons after Scott Frost left Oregon. And obviously you can really see the impact Scott Frost had on that offense after he left. Because even after Chip Kelly left, I mean, the Oregon offense kept going. I mean, Marcus Mariota won a Heisman Trophy, and after Scott Frost's departure, we see those two following seasons as just went downhill. Just was not working, obviously resulting in the coaches firing and the hiring of Willie Taggart. So, and I know some people are questioning, is Willie Taggart going to leave, go to Florida? From what I understand is he doesn't plan on leaving Oregon. He has more at home down here in Florida. I think his buyout's only $7 million. So it's very doable for Florida to buy out that contract. But they have some other ideas of which direction they're going to go with their coach. So far, they're the first major Power 5 school to let go of their head coach and to really be able to concentrate on their next coaching hire. So I don't know if I might get into that loss this weekend to Missouri, this last weekend to Missouri, but we'll see here later on in the show. But just want to say hats off to Willie Taggart being able to go up there and really pick up the pieces and kind of run with but to weigh on a bit more, I'm going to bring in my co-host of the show, Kevin Crest. He is the author of the P.K. Frazier novel, so go to Amazon or your nearest book retailer, request all the books, just buy them all at one time. It's Christmas time, so they're great gifts. And you could also hear him on Lou in the Morning. But Kevin, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, doing very well. Wow, what a crazy weekend in college football, right? I mean,
yeah.
Who would have thought Iowa would have put it on Iowa State like that? That was crazy.
See,
that was some.
My gut said pick Iowa to win, but nobody's gut said pick Iowa to blow them out like that.
Oh, not like that. I mean, you thought, well, they're going to go turnovers, they'll win by a field goal or something like that, right? I mean, that, if they were going to do it. and then Penn State gets the Armageddon of weather. They have to go into some visitor's locker room that's probably like nothing. There's like, two, and they got to wait 3.5 hours and come back out and try to beat Michigan State.
And that's the thing.
Yeah,
they were
up.
They were up going into the rain delay.
Yeah, they were. I mean, that was it's crazy weekend. But you know what? Chaos ensues. It's how college football is. I mean, that's what we get every year. And what about the track meet that Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, engaged in Stillwater? I mean, I'm not sure the basketball teams will score that many points when they play each other. I'm serious about that. I mean,
I guarantee they won't.
62-52. They probably won't, right? I mean, but Baker Mayfield put on a show. But the Big 12 did not look good for the Big 12. I mean, and the Big 10. I mean, your conference, right? They're in a world of hurt right now because
and that's the thing is
Wisconsin,
like I kind of wonder. We talk about it every year. Once we get into this time of year, when we see more of the high-ranked big time schools starting to face each other, the heavyweights of the conference start teeing off on each other. They start to cannibalize themselves. And the past few years, when the Pac-12 had more viable teams for the playoffs, and that's usually why they end up on the outside looking in. Outside Scott Frost last year there as offensive coordinator for Oregon, moving on to the national championship game. But outside of that, it's pretty much been they've cannibalized themselves, and Ohio State has found a way in a couple years to squeak in with a single loss. But this year, obviously, they had it all wrapped up. The committee basically said, with the way they voted, it looks like the teams out of Ohio State will one or a couple will lose or could lose, and as long as Ohio State wins the Big Ten championships, that they were going to edge in Ohio State, but them losing to Iowa, let alone being railroaded.
They got waxed. I mean, they got waxed. I mean, that wasn't even a game. I mean, that was crazy. So
I don't know.
The Big Ten, right?
See, this makes me worried now.
I mean,
this makes me worried now that Nebraska's getting ready to face them here in a couple weeks. Iowa, I'm like, Jesus. That's the last thing that I want to tune into is another dredging like that, And it's just, I don't know.
It's hard to say, right? It's hard to say in college football, but right now, I mean, you've got an elimination game tomorrow night. Saturday night. You've got Notre Dame and Miami. The loser of that game's out. Now, I don't know. If Miami loses, they might not be out.
No, they're out.
But if
they don't have a
they're out.
Good enough schedule.
Well, yeah, but that's a non-conference game, so Miami can still beat Clemson, right? And the conference champion one loss. I mean, they still have a path. If Notre Dame loses to Miami, there's no path. They're done. They're out. Okay, they're totally out. But this is getting crazy. You're looking now at a situation. By the way, we talked last week, right? Auburn still has Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah.
I still maintain they're going to win one of those games. I mean, I'm not going to pick which one. But the SEC is still a little bit of a crapshoot, except for the fact that Alabama and Georgia are both still undefeated, and so you could have a one-loss team at most, right? Coming out of the SEC, I think the SEC champion is probably in, regardless of what happens with the Auburn situation, all that.
Yeah.
And so you can pencil Auburn/Georgia in. Alabama/Georgia in.
Well, yeah. If Auburn wins out, I don't know if Auburn can make it in if they win out, just simply because they have two losses already.
Right.
Yeah.
But if they win out, they'll have beaten Georgia and Alabama, and they will be in the SEC championship game.
So okay,
Because
so here's the question.
Alabama out.
So here's the question. So Notre Dame wins out, Clemson wins out, and Oklahoma wins out. Right? So you're saying that and Wisconsin wins out. So Wisconsin is right now.
That's your Final Four.
That's the
your
four.
Final Four right there.
So they could win out, but they need Notre Dame, Clemson, Oklahoma, or TCU to. And then the funny thing is, right now, as of right now, the number one team in the Big 12, the top ranked team in the conference in Big 12, even though there's a 4-team tie, Iowa State is the number one team because they beat both Oklahoma and TCU. So the single loss for Oklahoma and TCU is Iowa State.
But they have two losses, though.
Well, three. They have three losses. I guess they did lose this weekend to West Virginia.
They have two conference losses. So they have two conference losses. So
yeah, now because they did lose this weekend.
So right now,
this past weekend.
So basically the game is this week. It's Oklahoma TCU. That's the game in the day. But they also have a chip game.
Yeah.
And
that's what I'm saying. You could see that's what I'm saying. You could see Iowa State still win the conference because if Oklahoma and TCU, one of them is going to lose, so that'll give them two losses. As long as Iowa State went out, they would get the tip of the hat to go into the conference championship game over the loser because they had beaten either. So they could. That's what I'm saying. They could still win the conference. That's what I meant to say.
That's right. They get a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Now Iowa State still has Oklahoma State this week. Okay, so
yeah, which is
Oklahoma
tough.
State can knock Iowa State out of it, which is probably what's going to happen. I mean, listen, hats off to Iowa State, but what happened to them at West Virginia is, and I picked to lose that game, is what's going to happen to them at Oklahoma State. They had a great season. What a great accomplishment by Matt Campbell, the coach at Iowa State, to get those guys, pumped up and beat those two top teams.
In the midst of rumors of everybody wanting to pillage him away from Iowa State, they're still out there playing for him. That says a lot.
Oh, yeah. He's done a great job. I mean, that program was so bad. I mean, but, we've seen guys bring programs from the depths of, Bill Snyder at Kansas State. When Bill Snyder took over Kansas State in the late 80s, early 90s, that was the worst program in college football. It was the worst program in college football. When George Welsh took over Virginia in 1981, 82, something like that, they were the worst program in college football. And at one point in 1988, Virginia was ranked number one in the country. So you see guys do this, right? They come in, they make their mark. Now, George Welsh stayed with Virginia until his career was over, and Bill Snyder stayed with Kansas State. But most of these guys move on. And Matt Campbell will move on from Iowa State. I mean, why would you stay there? I mean, you don't have that. They can't pay him. I mean, they don't have the base of donors that these other players do. But he's done a terrific job at that school to do what they've done this year. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to lose to Oklahoma State, but oh my gosh. I mean, Oklahoma State should have won Saturday against Oklahoma, but their defense just decided not to play football. I mean, that was. Did you watch the game, by the way? The Oklahoma State-Oklahoma game?
I didn't catch it all. I caught bits and pieces of it. The whole game was highlight reel. So you couldn't even watch, like the highlight reel for the game was like half the length of the game. It was like a 30-minute highlight or an hour-long highlight reel. Like,
yeah.
It was like the whole game in replay, you know?
It was. It was. I mean,
it was a long game. It was like, wasn't it like, didn't it take like an hour to get through the first quarter or something like that? It was something ridiculous.
Well, Oklahoma had 300 yards in the first quarter. It was that crazy, right? I mean, that's how bad it was. It was an entertaining game. But now this brings up the committee, the playoff committee, going, wait a second. When you compare that, these other teams playing defense and playing real football games, I'm still not sure the Big 12 is in, right? I mean, I'm not sure they're totally in yet. And the team that really controls their destiny in this whole thing is Miami. They get Notre Dame this week. They beat Virginia Tech, a very good football team, last weekend. They're undefeated. They still have Notre Dame, and they still get to play probably Clemson in the AC Championship game. Miami totally controls, their destiny. Alabama, Georgia, the two of them control their destiny. I mean, they can't both go undefeated because they play each other. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Auburn, of course, has a big say in this because they play both Alabama and Georgia, which is kind of weird. I mean, they get to play both of them. So we'll see. I mean, all these teams. The interesting thing is you've got 5 or 6 teams that can all actually win out. Washington, don't forget Washington, by the way, sitting out there in the Pac-12. What if Washington wins out, right? Because they have to beat Washington State and probably USC.
Yeah.
To win out, and those are quality wins, right? I mean,
yeah.
Don't forget about them sitting out there, right?
Yeah.
Because Alabama and Georgia can't both win out. They can't both win out. They can't. And so you've got Washington sitting out there going up, and if Clemson beats Miami in the AC Championship game and Washington wins out, where does that put them? I mean, this is a listen, and right now it looks like the Big Ten could be left out of this thing, even with an undefeated Wisconsin, they could get left out. And we've talked about this before, Matthew. As soon as the Big Ten or the SEC gets left out, they're expanding the playoffs. There's too much influence from those two conferences. They will expand the playoffs. They will do it, like, in a heartbeat. I'm not sure what the contracts and all this stuff with ESPN and all that contractual arrangements, but you cannot leave the Big Ten out of the playoffs.
I want to talk about that later in the show about the ESPN contracts with college football and its relation to the NFL. I heard a very interesting theory today, and I want to get into that a little later in the show. Don't forget, it's something I called you earlier. I was gonna kind of run it by you, but I want to talk about it later in the show when it comes down to broadcasting and these television rights. So But it's kind of just like you're saying. It's really unfolding in a crazy way. Because we were on the top 10. Auburn. Like I was saying, Auburn's the only 2-loss team in the top 10. Washington, what you were just saying, they're sitting there at 9 with an opportunity to potentially win out and have some others lose in front of them, maybe get in. And then the number 8 team, which we're talking about, is really the only team in the Big Ten that has a chance. The undefeated, kind of what some people are calling the fake ID of college football, Wisconsin Badgers. They're undefeated. Looks like they'll win out the season from where the schedule standpoint is, and then they will play. I'm guessing Ohio State, because even at this point with both Penn State and Ohio State losing, Ohio State would still have to lose 2 more games because they hold a tiebreaker over Penn State, which probably won't happen at this point. With Wisconsin, again, having Wisconsin, having a Big Ten or an SEC team on the outside looking in is really where they end up talking. We've always assumed that they would end up talking about how don't you do it. Those are your 2 highest revenue generating, highest viewer revenue generating conferences for the sport. So the Big Ten being the largest out of the top 10 or 12 markets, they have 7 of the top 12 markets in the country in the Big Ten TV viewing markets. So as a TV spectator sport as this is, having 7 of the top 12 or 7 of the top 10 or 12, or what we're looking at, markets is huge. So them not being in hurts viewership in a sense, because their markets don't have someone represented. Now, what do you see for Wisconsin? Do you, after seeing Ohio State lose the way they did?
If Wisconsin wins out, okay, they're in. They're in because the Big Ten will. But if Wisconsin is undefeated, they'll be 13-0, right? They're in.
Yeah.
Now the question is, can they win the Big Ten championship? But they're in, and so you've got all these teams. And you say, well, if they win out, they win out, they win out, they win out. But you've got Alabama and Georgia. Either one of those teams, only one can win out, right? And so the winner of the SEC is in my estimation. The winner of the ACC is in because either Miami, because if Miami wins out, they'll have beaten Notre Dame and Clemson to get in. They're in, right? I mean, that's and Miami will be undefeated. Wisconsin's in if they win out. And so this game Saturday night, Notre Dame Miami, is literally an elimination game for the playoffs.
And just so people realize, right now, Georgia is a lock. They have already clinched their division title. They haven't awarded it to them, but they've already clinched because they only have one SEC game left, and South Carolina,
and Miami,
they already beat, has 3 losses.
Right. And Miami has clinched the ACC Coastal,
beating Virginia Tech, and it was sad to see that. But
they're the only 2 teams, because they beat Georgia Tech. They're the only 2 teams in Power 5 conferences right now that have clinched their half or their divisions. Okay, so Georgia's in.
I think Wisconsin has to.
Miami's in. Have they clinched yet? They haven't played enough games to clinch, have they?
Well, they only have three.
Purposes, they probably have.
They only have 3 games left, and I think pretty much everybody else has lost 3. I think Northwestern's right behind them. Yeah, I think all of Northwestern's losses are conference losses. I'm going to pull it up here.
By the way, did Nebraska beat Northwestern this weekend?
No.
They didn't they?
No, it went to overtime, and Nebraska lost in overtime.
Northwestern won.
Yeah.
Well, so I think Nebraska still has a bleeding chance that Wisconsin has. It's pretty close there, but the 2 teams I think they've actually clinched, and you've got USC on the verge of clinching. In
Iowa's second. Iowa's second.
Yeah,
But Iowa. So okay, here's the thing. It's Northwestern has 2 conference losses, so they're right behind them. But Wisconsin has Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota. So that's the thing. No, they haven't clinched. So because they have 3 conference games left, technically, if they lose, but Wisconsin owns the tiebreaker, so they'd have to lose all 3 of those games, and Wisconsin wins out.
Right.
So if Wisconsin has to beat any one of the last 3 games, win any one of the last 3 games to clinch the Western title, the Western Division.
And so, in some essence, but if they lose a game, if Wisconsin loses a game, and Iowa
no national title
is in a roll. If Wisconsin loses a game, the Big Ten is shut out of the playoffs. I mean, right? No
without
question.
a doubt,
they're out because in the Big 12, Oklahoma and TCU play this weekend, and the winner of that game is probably
because if you're looking at it like this,
we talked
we
talked last week.
Go ahead.
We talked last week. The Big 12 going to a championship game actually might hurt them this year because if TCU beats Oklahoma and then they play again the championship game and Oklahoma beats TCU, the Big 12 is out, right? Because, they're done.
Yeah.
So this is very fascinating. This is going to be very fascinating how this happens. And if Wisconsin loses, I don't care where they lose. I don't care when they lose. And they could lose to Ohio State in the championship game or whoever it is.
Because Iowa's their first-ranked team that they'll play all season. And Iowa just got ranked for the first time.
Yeah, they're done. They're done. So right now, if I was to pick my Final Four right now, right, I would have to say Alabama, because they'll beat the crap out of Georgia, because Nick Saban beats the crap out of any assistant coach he's ever had. He's never lost to. Okay.
He almost lost to Lane Kiffin, by the way. Lane Kiffin almost beat him.
But he never had. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Duke. Man, it's a tough pick. Washington. That's my Final Four. Washington. Because nobody watches them. By the way, they have the second-ranked rushing defense in the country. That team is really good. Okay, and
so let's run that down real quick. Because right now they're ranked 9. So what we're saying
Yeah,
is,
but who's ahead of them?
but what we're saying is, Wisconsin loses either this week or in the championship game.
Yeah.
That puts them behind them. The Miami loses probably this weekend,
Right.
or even against Clemson, because we're saying Clemson wins out. So
Right.
so they lose to Clemson. TCU
Right.
loses to
Exactly.
Oklahoma, but Oklahoma turns around
Or
and
they
loses
split.
to TCU.
Or they split. Right. They split.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Okay.
but also what you're saying is,
Keep going.
so that means Georgia essentially has to lose twice. Because if they're one and they lose to Alabama, what do you think that they drop below 4? That's
Yeah,
saying
because if Washington wins out, and by the way, USC is playing really well. Okay, if Washington wins out, they have to beat Washington State, which, by the way, is like ranked what, 12, 13, 14, something like that, right?
19th.
In Stanford last week. 19. Okay, so they have to beat Washington State. Actually, they haven't played Stanford yet either. And so if Washington wins out, which I think they actually are going to do, they will have beaten 3 ranked teams in the last 4 games. And there'll be a 12-1 conference champion. So, are you going to take Georgia over Washington? And Washington's schedule was really good.
So let me ask you this.
That's
So
the question.
if Georgia wins in the fashion that they did the last time Georgia and Alabama faced off in the SEC championship by a yard, they lose by 1 yard. They go undefeated all season
That's a big question.
and only lose by a yard.
Yeah, that's a big question, right? Yeah,
I think it's the way
question
that they
is-
lose that game would turn to
right.
again, and that's
Right.
assuming
No
Notre Dame wins out, Clemson wins out, Oklahoma finds a way to win out. That's the tough part. Would Georgia be that Ohio State team that is not the conference championship, but the committee says because of the body of work? I mean, they go and they beat Notre Dame. They beat Auburn. They beat LSU. They beat they go through this list of teams, which I mean we all have to agree they've played a quality schedule this season. I mean, Appalachian State obviously is not too big, but Notre Dame was ranked at the time. They beat Notre Dame again by a point, but still Notre Dame came in.
At
Mississippi
Notre Dame.
exactly, and Mississippi State was the cream of the crop when they faced them. They bushwhacked them 31-3. Then they go to Tennessee in Knoxville. Beat them 41-0, and then they see Vandy, and Vandy's that next team. We were all waiting for Vandy to beat somebody, and then they beat the snot out of Vandy 45-14. Missouri, they didn't take 2 looks at, but 53 up on Missouri, waxed Florida.
Oh, okay.
So I mean,
Let me say this, Matthew. If they take the 4 best teams, in my estimation, the 4 best teams in college football are Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma. Okay, those are the 4 best teams. And I watch a lot of football. I watch 10, 12 games a week, okay? And from the eyeball test, okay, those are the 4 best teams. Now, I would have had Ohio State in there until they got the crap beaten out of them by Iowa.
Jesus.
But I don't put Wisconsin in that list. I mean, so the question is the committee going to go, they're really good, we'll put two teams in the SEC over all these other teams. To me, if Wisconsin wins out, okay, just saying, and they probably won't because they're not as good as the teams from the East. There's four teams in the East still in the running, right? Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State, Michigan State, and Michigan are still all in the running, right? Last time I checked.
Yeah, Michigan State's one.
Now Michigan,
they have one conference loss. Ohio
Michigan
State
probably won't. Yeah, Michigan probably won't because they're not.
Technically, Rodgers is actually still in the running because they only have 3 losses. So with 3 conference games left, if the teams above them lose out, so everybody else would have 4 or more losses, and Rodgers wins out, technically Rodgers could be the surprise of the century winning that. But that's clearly not going to happen. I'm just saying that they have 3 losses in conference, which mathematically still puts them within reach of the East. If they win out and everybody else loses out, which isn't possible, I don't think, because Michigan plays Ohio State. So, well, yeah, even then, because Michigan would lose 2 games, so that'd be 4. So Penn State could lose the next 2 games. Yeah, so that's how they would have to win out. Michigan.
Yeah, but
it's not going to happen. But
if Michigan goes 13-0, they're in. No, excuse me, Wisconsin goes 13-0. They're in.
You would
They
think.
have to be in.
You would think.
You can't keep them out, right? I mean, and if
I don't
Miami,
know. That's the big question.
Miami, if Miami, listen, it's Miami or Clemson. It's Miami or Clemson. It's Alabama, Georgia.
Now what? Hold on, Kevin. Let me kind of throw something at you real quick.
Remember this. No. Remember this now. Miami goes 13-0. They'll beat Notre Dame, which kicks Notre Dame out. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't have an undefeated Miami and a 1-loss Notre Dame because they play each other Saturday night. So one of them is out, right? I mean, one of those teams now. If Notre Dame loses, they're out. If Miami loses, they're still in because they can still win the ACC championship with 1 loss. And a lot of people, including me, have maintained that there might be 2 or 3 conference champions with 2 losses. And the Big Ten comes to mind, right? Because everyone in the Big Ten East has 2 losses, right?
Yeah.
They all do.
Yeah.
And if that team beats Wisconsin to win the championship, that's a 2-loss championship team. There's a very good chance that the winner of the Big 12 will have 2 losses because I don't see Oklahoma beating TCU twice. And they're going to have to do that. Right?
Yeah.
Now, if Oklahoma runs the table, I think they're in because they're what are they now? 5th? Right? And Alabama and Georgia are going to play each other. And so, this I guess we talked about this last week. This is all going to work itself out on the football field. I mean, it's going to do a lot of stuff the next 3 weeks. These teams all play each other. What's TCU this week? 7? I didn't see the rankings. I have to confess, I've been at a casino tonight playing in a poker tournament. So I didn't get to see what the rankings were, but
it's all good. That's what we're doing. That's a segment of the show that you called into. We're doing the top 10.
There you go. So TCU's what, 7?
Yeah. Let me go back over it. So 10 we had Auburn, 9 Washington, number 8 Wisconsin, 7 was Miami, 6 is TCU, 5 is Oklahoma.
Okay.
So again,
So
look
the
at
top
this.
Four,
So
the top four remained unchanged for me. The
so
top
if
four remained the same.
exactly, here's the big thing. So Wisconsin undefeated, Miami undefeated, both have a probability, a likely probability of winning out and winning their conference. What if they win out and win their conference, and you have one loss Georgia, Alabama win out, and now you're kind of looking at a situation where you could potentially have an undefeated conference champion not in the mix, because
That won't happen. I mean, if Wisconsin wins out, they're in. I mean, here's
so
I mean,
so Wisconsin wins
don't
out,
control-
Miami wins out, so that takes out Notre Dame and Clemson. Oklahoma wins out, and Georgia, Alabama, one of the two has one loss. Do we take the one that's the big question. They're going to take the undefeated conference champion over the better team, because that's not necessarily what happened in the past. They had the one loss non-conference champion, Ohio State, playing in the Final Four. I think the chaos really comes is if Wisconsin and Miami win out, Georgia loses by 1 yard, or Alabama, better yet, that's even a better story, Alabama loses by 1 yard, and Clemson wins out and Oklahoma win out. Like, that's the more interesting story. Do you keep Alabama out?
it is.
Or do you keep the undefeated conference champion out? So that's like, clearly Alabama would be the best or second best team in college football.
As far as I'm concerned, an undefeated conference champion, whether it's Miami or Washington, right? I mean, excuse me, Miami or Wisconsin, or both of them. If you're a Power 5 conference team and you win out undefeated, you're going to get in. You can't keep them out. I mean, you can't keep them out. As bad as Wisconsin's non-conference schedule is, you can't keep them out because you will have beaten a quality team in the conference championship, right?
Mm-hmm.
If Miami wins out, there's no question because they will have beaten Virginia Tech, right? Mm-hmm. And by the way, they beat Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech was right when they beat them.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have beaten Notre Dame, and then Clemson. And I mean, you can't keep Miami. I mean, Miami's in if they run the table, but Miami and Notre Dame can't both run the table because they play each other. Alabama and Georgia can't both run the table because they play each other, right?
But that's just it. But the scenario really is where it starts to stink.
And Oklahoma and TCU can't run the table because they play each other probably twice.
Yeah.
I mean, in essence, right? And so this is all going to sort itself out on the football field. But the question is going to be, are you going to take a one-loss Georgia or Alabama? I'll put them in the same bucket, right?
Yes.
Over a one-loss Washington. See, that's the question at this point, or a one-loss Oklahoma.
Even
right?
if it, or
are you going to leave that?
Because right now as it is, Alabama, Georgia's in the same bucket. The winner of those two, we're saying, is undefeated. Notre Dame would have lost, and Clemson would have lost if Miami loses out. So what you're saying is, whoever is the best of those two meetings between Oklahoma TCU is going to move up. So that puts in the undefeated team in the SEC. That puts in Oklahoma. And then what we're looking at is, now, do you take a one-loss Washington, an undefeated Miami, an undefeated Wisconsin, or do you take a one-loss Georgia? So it really, you have 5 teams to pick for 2 selections. Now, what you're saying is Wisconsin's in because it's the Big Ten. Okay, so we won't argue that. So are you really saying the loser of
we know that, right?
the loser of Alabama, Georgia, you take that, which is probably the second best team in the country. One loss, Wisconsin, undefeated Miami, or who was my other team? Well,
okay. Well, let's put it this way.
Oklahoma.
Let's put it this way. You have Alabama / Georgia, right? Winner or loser. You have Clemson, Miami, winner or loser. Because I think even if Miami loses to Notre Dame and they beat Clemson, I think the ACC champ is probably in. Okay. The question is, what happens
not over
to the
a
Big
one
12
loss,
and the Pac-12?
not over the one loss SEC champion.
And Oklahoma's win over Ohio State now is diminished because Ohio State got the crap kicked out of them by Iowa, right? I mean, all of a sudden that win isn't as big a deal. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to work itself out. I mean, I happen to think that Notre Dame is about as good as there is in the country right now. I think Notre Dame is right behind Alabama. If I was to rank the teams, and I've watched all the games, if I was to rank the teams right now in terms of what I've seen, I would say Alabama, Notre Dame, Georgia, and I'm going to put Oklahoma in there, and probably Washington with their rushing defense, and then Miami. That's how I'm going to rank them. Okay, and then TCU. TCU's problem is their offense isn't very good, and that's why I think the crap kicked out of them by Oklahoma, because I don't think TCU can score with Oklahoma. I mean, their defense is good, but their offense isn't all that good. So, I mean, this is all going to work itself out this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, if Oklahoma goes into TCU and beats the crap out of them, I mean, it's pretty apparent who the fourth best team in the country is, and so, that's how I have them. And
well, I'm hoping for chaos this year, as I do every year this time of year. I'm hoping. I hope. I hope I'm wrong about the Auburn beating Alabama. I hope Alabama and Georgia find their way into the conference championship, and Georgia wins by 1 yard. I hope it reverses that, and they win by 1 yard. So now it puts the committee in a situation where we have Oklahoma that won out, Wisconsin wins out, Miami wins out, Washington wins out. Because now I really want the committee to squirm, because now you're saying, okay, we're probably going to put Wisconsin in because that's the Big Ten, right? And then you got Oklahoma in because we're already saying that they're in the top four anyways.
Well, undefeated.
Well, no, that's not even necessarily the case, because if the committee is saying Oklahoma is number 5 and you lose Notre Dame and Clemson and they fall down, and Oklahoma essentially beats TCU, which is the number 6 team, twice, and then whoever else they got on their schedule, they got one other game other than that on their schedule. I mean, they're pretty much in it.
Remember, but the committee doesn't look forward. The committee historically, remember, TCU was ranked 3rd. The first year, TCU was ranked 3rd. The week before the final ratings, they played Baylor, they beat them, and they dropped down because of what some other teams did.
It's because they were idle a week because they didn't have a conference championship.
Right.
They dropped because they didn't have a conference championship. What I'm saying now is they have a conference championship. If you're saying that Oklahoma today is number 5 in the country, and Notre Dame and Clemson both lose, that Oklahoma isn't moved up. Like I don't see how that.
Oh no, they definitely move up.
That's what I'm saying. In the scenario of hell that I'm presenting is Oklahoma wins out, so they're 12-1, so they move up. They're in the top 4.
Well then they're in.
Yeah.
Well, if Oklahoma wins out.
Yeah. And then the undefeated.
They'll have to beat TCU twice.
Yeah.
Right. Or yeah. Okay. They're in. Let's go down the list. If Alabama wins out, they're in.
Yeah.
If Georgia wins out, they're in.
See, my scenario is Georgia wins out.
Who's number 3? Notre Dame.
So no.
Yes. Who's number 3? Notre Dame.
Yeah, right now Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame's number 3, right? Okay. So if they win out, they're in. Who's number 4?
Clemson.
They went out, they're in.
Okay, so
Oklahoma went out, they're in.
So here's what
the thing is.
So now
Alabama and both can't win out.
Exactly. So what they're saying. So now even in this scenario, I mean, both Miami and Wisconsin potentially could both win out and win their conference and not get in, depending on the outcome of the SEC. Again,
it's possible.
It's possible. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm saying it's possible because
Miami would beat Clemson, and they're out. They'd be out. Clemson would be out.
But I'm just saying. If Georgia beats, but what if Georgia beats Alabama by 1 yard? Is the committee really prepared to not put Alabama in over Miami or Wisconsin? Because that's literally saying that
Miami wins out. But Matthew, you got to get the schedule in your mind. If Miami wins out, they will have beaten number 3 and number 4 in the country.
I get it.
And gone undefeated.
Right? I get it.
How can you put Miami? How can you put a one-loss Alabama in over Miami, who beat Clemson and Notre Dame in the last 2 weeks of the season? It's impossible. You can't do that
because it's saying that they beat
and a 13th ranked Virginia Tech. They will have beaten number 13, number 3, and number 4 in successive weeks in the season.
Well,
you can't.
Well,
now, do I think Miami's going undefeated?
No.
I think Miami's losing to Notre Dame.
I think that
which will really
they lose to Notre Dame, they lose to Clemson, and
yeah, they're in.
But what I'm saying is I get that, but the committee has shown in years past that they are willing to put the team that they think is the better team in the playoff over other teams.
No question.
Because that's what I'm saying. It's potential. It's a potential chaos because that's what I'm saying. If Alabama loses by 1 yard and the only loss that they have is to Georgia by 1 yard on the last second, so they go forward on fourth down and they get stopped at the 1. Same thing that happened to Georgia. If that happens to Alabama, it's I don't know. I can't say with any confidence that the committee leaves them out.
Well, here's the chaos scenario then. Forget the scenario. Just the chaos scenario is Miami loses to Notre Dame Saturday, but then beats Clemson in the AC championship game. Right?
Yeah.
So you have a one loss. You have a one loss. You have a one-loss ACC champion in Miami, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who beat who by that time will probably be number 3 because could be, because if Miami beats whatever. So you have a one-loss Miami AC champion or a one-loss Washington Pac-12 champion. Right?
Mm-hmm.
and you've got to rate that against a one-loss Alabama or Georgia. I'm going to put them in the same boat, right? Because they both they're 1 and 2 right now. So do you take Miami with one loss, and that one loss coming to number 3 Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, if that's the case, Notre Dame's in. They're in the mix. They're in.
So what you're saying is the undefeated SEC champion,
that's the case.
and then you have Notre Dame at 12-1, and then okay,
11-1.
okay,
Because
11.
they'll beat Miami.
Yeah, because they don't have a conference title.
And then Miami beats Clemson.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's the chaos scenario, right? That's where the community has to go. What are the best 4 teams in college football? Because
okay.
And if
so
you have
Oklahoma, what happens with Oklahoma
right?
TCU?
That's right. That's what I'm talking about. So you have this chaos scenario because you now have, let's just say Oklahoma runs the table and Washington runs the table. Somebody's out because Notre Dame's in. If Notre Dame beats Miami and Stanford, you can't keep them out. The eyeball test says, and they lost by 1 point.
Does Wisconsin win out?
And if Wisconsin wins out, what the hell? You've got 6 teams, 4 spots. They're all deserving. That's the chaos scenario. I mean,
see,
that's what I'm
here's the funny.
Scenario.
You want to hear the funny thing is, with those. So the SEC went. So let's say Alabama, they went out. Notre Dame was 11-1. Oklahoma 12-1. Miami 12-1. Washington 12-1. Wisconsin 13-0. I mean, this is what we're kind of boodling up of their list of what the 6 teams would move up. Again, there's your 6 team that you proposed in your book, 6-team playoff. You know, even if you have the 8-team playoff, now you're looking at probably introducing Clemson back in and Notre Dame. So Clemson and Notre Dame would be would be the 2 lost teams sitting at the 7 and 8 seed.
Right. I think, and I've said this before, I've written it.
Yeah.
I think the 6-team playoff is ideal. Forget the 8. The 6-team playoff, because it allows all the Power 5 conference champions, if they're worthy, to get in, and another team. Because the top 2 teams are bye, and I think 6 is the number because, listen, there's a real good chance this year that the Big Ten gets left out because I think whoever wins the East is going to beat Wisconsin. I mean, you're a Big Ten guy. You can see this, right?
Well, I'm a Nebraska
Michigan
guy,
State, Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan are all better than Wisconsin. They are. They're just better than Wisconsin. And by the way, Iowa's probably better than Wisconsin, but they're not going to win.
They'll play this week.
So you've got this situation, and if Iowa beats Wisconsin this week, the Big Ten is out, right? They're out.
Yeah, they're done.
They're done. If Iowa beats Wisconsin this week, the Big Ten is out. That's end the conversation.
And here,
right?
okay. So let's look at it like this too. So it's a crazy scenario because you could end up with we could end up with 2 SEC teams, a non-conference team, and an ACC team in the Final Four. So then the Big 12, the Big 10, and the Pac-12 all left out.
Pac-12 all get left out. That's why 6 is the number because now, and it's very likely actually because I actually think the USC will beat Washington in the Pac-12 championship game. I think there'll be a 2-loss champion in the Pac-12 because I've watched all those games. I stay up late at night. I think USC, they're playing very well right now. They're playing very well. They will beat Washington. If they face Washington and by the way, Washington still has to play Washington State, end of the season just to get there. And Washington already has 2 losses. So if Washington State gets to the Pac-12 championship game, you'll have two lost teams in the championship game. So that'll eliminate that right there, right? Yeah. And so the Pac-12's out. The Big 12's on life support. I mean, it really is in terms of and the ACC's in a great position because they have Miami and Clemson. One's undefeated. Miami's not going to lose again. They don't have anybody left until they get to the championship game. Clemson does have South Carolina, the last game of the season. It's a rivalry game. That thing's a brawl. I mean, that's a tough game. So the ACC's in pretty good shape because it's going to be either Clemson or Miami. And now Miami has to take care of business against Notre Dame. If Miami loses to Notre Dame and beats Clemson, that's a chaos scenario, right? Because now you go, wait a second. Who do you take? So it's going to be but this is what makes college football so great, right?
Yeah.
It makes it so fascinating, right? And that's why you don't want to go too far beyond 4. I think 6 teams is good. You don't want to go too far beyond that because, for instance, it would diminish this weekend's games because you have Miami, Notre Dame. That's an elimination game. If you had an 18 playoff, it probably wouldn't eliminate both of those teams, right?
Yeah, yeah. 8 teams, no.
Teams, right?
Yeah.
Because the 2 lost teams can still get in. So anyway, it's fascinating. I love it. And you know how much football I watch, and I watch the games, and I see these teams. But you've got all these 2 lost teams. I mean, and good teams. I'm talking about Washington State and Michigan State and Penn State and Ohio State and Oklahoma State and Virginia Tech. I mean, you're talking about all these 2 lost teams that are really, really good football teams. The bowl season is going to be tremendous this year. I mean, we got some tremendous bowl games.
Yeah, this year is going to be probably one of the funnest years to go through and pick the games. I think. I mean.
Oh yeah.
I like because kind of like you. I watch or I'll very least pay attention to these teams, these smaller teams, other Conference USA teams. I'm not going to say I pay too much attention to the MAC. I mean, who does? But
I'm watching that. I'm watching the MAC. Right, I'm watching Akron and Miami of Ohio right now. I'm watching the MAC. It's a MAC attack.
I know they play on Tuesdays
right now.
I wonder if we get better ratings in the MAC. I wonder. We may get better ratings in the MAC. I don't know. And when they said, "Hey, you might have to go to head with a MAC game," I was like, "I can do that. I can do that." I don't know if Kevin will call in. I might lose my co-host, but I can still go head to head with a MAC game.
Well, and I follow the MAC. This is a down year for the MAC. There is no big team for the MAC this year. But I'll tell you, a conference that is really good is the American Conference. Memphis, UCF, USF, Houston. I mean, there's some very good football teams in the American Conference. UCF, that's coached by your man. That's by your guy, Scott Frost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he will not be there. He will not be there past January 5th, right? I mean, there's no way Scott Frost doesn't get a job somewhere else. I mean, they're talking about Florida, which would be a great job for him. He should be recruiting in the state of Florida. We don't know what's going to happen with Mike Riley at Nebraska. That's still up in the air.
Kevin.
I'm thinking he's gone. He's gone, right? I'm thinking he's gone.
He lost in overtime to Northwestern.
Yeah, but if you're Scott Frost,
and we have
what's the better job? I mean, Florida's
the likeliness
job,
of
right?
us
Florida's
getting
a better job.
Is no. See, that's the thing that keeps bouncing back and forth in my head. Is Florida a better job? Because Florida keeps running into problems. It's not finding recruits. They have trouble with their front office. They seem to have a lot of turnover in the front office, and they're doing shit for like I've been through their facilities, and it's frankly an embarrassment for a team that's normally a top 5-10 team in recruiting to go through those facilities, like to see that, like parts of Ben Griffin Stadium is just, it looks like it's in disrepair. It looks old. It looks tattered. It looks way out of date, and it just looks really old. And I mean, Memorial Stadium's an old stadium, but if you walk through there, you can tell it's well kept. Like you cannot compare facilities with Florida and Nebraska. Nebraska has facilities second to none. I mean, I'm talking about just the area where our physical trainers work on rehabilitation. That alone is what they copied for the Beijing Olympics. Like, the officials from China came to the University of Nebraska to learn what they were doing and then duplicated it there for the Olympics, for the best athletes in the world. They duplicate. It's, again, when it comes to facilities, it's really not, there's really no competition. Like, Nebraska really does knock a lot out. But the problem is the weather. The weather's the big challenge.
But isn't that what Jim was complaining about, was the facilities at the University of Florida?
Yes. I'm no Jim McElwain apologist, but yes, he was up against a lot of other things. It wasn't just, I mean, they look at 2.5 years into his tenure that he's not ranked high enough in offense, and they're not winning like they should. They win 2 straight division titles. Again, their offense was stinking it up. It was a pride. Really, what killed him was Will Grier. If he keeps Will Grier, I think we're not talking about Jim McElwain is fired, but he's getting an extension. I think that's what changed this.
Plus, they won those 2 division titles against diminished competition in the East. The East was way down. I mean, those 2 years. You had an SEC East, which was frankly a subpar division in Power 5 football. I mean, the SEC East in those 2 or 3 years didn't compare to either of the divisions in the ACC. Clearly not either of the divisions in the Pac-12. Right? I mean, you had no USCs or UCLAs or, Utahs, and you had no Washingtons or Washington States or Stanfords. You had Florida. Georgia was down. South Carolina was horrible, and Will Muschamp, he's struggling to keep his job at South Carolina. Missouri was totally down. Tennessee, Butch Jones is a train wreck. I mean, so, right? You know what I mean? If you're Florida, I mean, didn't Florida win? Didn't Florida go 8-4 and win their division? I think they went 8-4, and they got totally drubbed by Florida State. I mean, they got the crap kicked out of them.
Yeah.
And so, I think the administration at Florida was like, you won the division, but it's still not that good. I mean, and they lost the bowl games. And so, I can see and listen, McElwain's offense was horrible. I think he averaged won the division. He averaged 23 points a game in college football. Oh my gosh, 23 points a game is nothing. I mean, you gotta score in the 30s and 40s, right? I mean, that's the nature of the game these days. And so, I don't. And by the way, just to let you know, Miami, Ohio just took a 24-7 lead over Akron in the NAC game of the week on Tuesday. Just to fill you in, because I know that you're very interested in that result. So there you go.
So, I mean, I don't even think you know how interested I am. It's, I am on the edge of my seat right now. I'm like, man, I wish I could get in to my computer here. And wait, it's in front of me. I wish. What was I gonna? I was wishing for something. So now I know where George Bush gets it from. Yep. What was I saying again? Love the MAC conference. It's a Texas conference. It's wonderful.
Mac attack.
George Bush should be the best.
Mac attack.
Yeah, you can't.
It's a neck attack.
Who dances at a funeral? I mean, who but George Bush would dance at a funeral? I don't know. It's George Bush. He gets away with it. The son does. The father doesn't get away with things anymore, evidently. I guess it's an entirely different show then, right? But what I wanted to touch on here, I put out an article today, and it's something that was kind of I posted it up earlier today. It's something I started last week, but I posted it up, retouched it up earlier today. The question is, has Aaron Rodgers played his last game for the Green Bay Packers? And a lot of people are saying, "Oh, is his contract up, or is Huntley playing that good?" No, Huntley's not playing that good, and no, his contract isn't up. But at the end of the season, he has an opt-out period. He can opt out of this contract and become essentially a free agent, and essentially holding the Green Bay Packers for ransom. And why wouldn't he do that? And that's a real question. As we know, he's been at odds with the head coach. The front office and team have not shown any sort of concerted effort to try to bring in skilled players, other free agents to beef up the offense or defense or anything at all, to build around him. And we see really, once he's gone, the team is no longer a playoff contender. So why wouldn't he? I mean, we're talking about right now. Spot Rec says that his current market value is $28.3 million per year. Is his annual. But if he opted out, I would gather that we could see him signing a 5+ year contract for $30+ million a year easily. And again, are the Packers going to drop $30-some million a year to keep Aaron Rodgers? And if they did, would he agree to that just based on the money? Or are they going to really have to show some concerted effort to put pieces around him? So it's really a quandary in and of itself.
Yeah. I see your point. That's actually a pretty good football team with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. And I was watching Mike and Mike in the morning this morning, and Louis Riddick was on. Who I love Louis Riddick. The guests they have on that show are amazing. And you know what? I watched Brett Hundley. I like Brett Hundley a lot. By the way, he was at UCLA. He beat Virginia Tech in a bowl game. I like what he does. But Aaron Rodgers is kind of they formed that offense around Aaron Rodgers' abilities, and I don't see him going anywhere else. I just don't. You've got a good point. I reflected more after I responded to your post and said no way he's going to be there and all that stuff, and I reflected more on it. I have a hard time believing that he's going to go elsewhere. I know there's been tension between him and Mark McCarthy, the head coach, but they got a good thing going on there in Green Bay. They made the playoffs 8 years in a row with him at the helm, and that's a hard thing to do. I mean, that's really a hard thing to do. I think that's the longest current playoff streak of any NFL team. So, I mean, I'm sure there would be suitors.
But why have they made the playoffs, Kevin? That's when I look, and honestly, my first view when I was thinking about this, I was just thinking like, Aaron Rodgers is out. How much money is he making? And I was just looking, and I seen the opt-out period, and the first thing I was like, oh shit, he could opt out. But I look at the team, especially this weekend, after in the process of finishing, some touch-ups on the article, I'm looking at them this weekend like, I mean, it's kind of competing, but they're not. They're clearly a completely different team, minus that one piece, and it is such a big difference. And even if you go to Vegas, or if you go by the numbers, there's not a single player in the league that has more value than Aaron Rodgers. Nobody moves that line more than Aaron Rodgers, Nobody. So, I mean, if he is the most valuable player, truly, if you just take economic value to a team, the wins over replacement, if you're taking his value there's no one higher than that. And if his team minus him aren't really competing, what does that say about Green Bay? What that really says to me is they don't have the pieces in place to really contend year after year for a Super Bowl as much as they do for a playoff position. And again, I think that's the question. If Aaron Rodgers is going down as the best player in history, right? If we're looking at legacy, the best player in history, he has won Super Bowl the year that Green Bay kind of figured some stuff out. They got lucky on the contract side, probably one of the top defenses in the league, and he was able to have a stall of people. He had running backs. He had a couple running backs. See, that's the thing is like they know that the skill position has been issues year after year, but he still does it with diminished skill people. Like if they gave him a stable of legitimate running backs, some depth on the offensive line, and more something to create more. See, that's what I put in my article. It's not saying that because they didn't add those pieces is why he got hurt, but just imagine if they have some running backs that are going to get 3, 4, 5 yards of carry, or some skilled players that aren't dropping passes and have the potential to really break something loose. And on the other side, have defensive players that are disrupting the game to where the point differential between the offense and defense, the offense is scoring more points, so it's putting Aaron Rodgers in a position where he isn't having to be in the situations where he's taking as many hits. He'll be handing the ball off more, and passing off the run. but it just seems like he's doing everything, and when he's not doing everything, the team just, it doesn't work. He is the cog in the middle, you know? He is the cog in the middle, and that's just it. He knows he's the cog in the middle, and it's not that he has a problem being the cog in the middle. Guys like him like to step up in those situations, but if he's really going to talk about looking at championships and pursuing more championships, and if he'll be the highest paid player no matter what, but is it going to be with the Packers? The Packers just have not shown to me that they're going to be willing to spend money or get assets around him to keep him safe, to help him win. But there are a lot of teams that will try to do that. And let's look at the situation in San Francisco. We think just because they got Garoppolo that, they're out of the running for anything else. I'm telling you this. San Francisco is in the running for Aaron Rodgers. They're in the running for Andrew Luck. They're in the running for pretty much whatever quarterback they want. And it could be including the number 1 or 2 overall pick of this coming draft. So the 49ers have positioned themselves in a pretty unique situation with a whole lot of cap space and the willingness to spend money and acquire if they need to, with a great young head coach. I mean, think about Kyle Shanahan with Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I've got some other teams to throw in that mix, right? You've got Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Carson Palmer's done.
Yeah.
For the most part.
We would assume so.
Texas.
He's kind of like an amoeba. Like, but I'd say he's done.
I mean, you've got Jacksonville. Put Aaron Rodgers in Jacksonville. I mean, just think about that a second, right? I mean, they've got a great defense. They have Fournette at running back. Got Aaron Rodgers, which I mean that's also a destination that's been bandied out for Kirk Cousins if he leaves Washington. So that's some really. I mean, I just don't think Rodgers is going to leave Green Bay, but if he does, oh my gosh, I mean, you've got a good point. Lots of destinations.
I got into a bit of how I got back on this argument. I didn't plug my article. I probably should have, but I was talking in the wee morning hours with Mike Silver, the NFL.com, and because I kind of made a tongue-in-cheek comment, which kind of was a curveball, which I thought was in the wrong direction. It ended up coming back, and it worked out for me in the long run. But it was on the topic because he was saying, why don't the Packers just sign Colin Kaepernick? But my argument is the Packers don't sign guys. They just don't. I don't have a problem with. I was just saying that. Listen, I agree. I think Colin Kaepernick is one of the 32 best. Again, 32nd or better players at his position in the league right now, without a question. Probably top 20 in the league without a question. Kind of seeing how people have kind of rounded out this year, but he doesn't have a job. And I don't have a question that he should be starting somewhere this year. But what I'm saying is, it's not about, it's an opening and a potential, pursue it. I'm just saying the Packers were the wrong tree to bark up. That's all I was saying to him. And I don't think he appreciated it. At least that's kind of what I got from it. But anyways, that's just what I was saying. So in a situation where the Texans make more sense, but an owner that doesn't seem to mesh with that, again, Baltimore looked like it made more sense. At the end of the day, Flacco's still playing. there's other situations, Arizona, stuff like that, that maybe make more sense for him to step in and be playing. Miami, step in and be playing. But he's not getting the opportunities for whatever reason. I know a lot of people were saying that Kaepernick is suing the league. Why would he? He's not suing the league. There is a grievance that was filed by the NFL Players Association on Kaepernick's behalf to the league, which has, in a sense, subpoenaed or requested material items such as emails, phone records, and phones to be turned in from various owners, general managers, and people within the league, Jerry Jones being among those, as well as Roger Goodell. They're trying to get his involvement in it turned over as well. And on top of that, they are getting depositions from these people. So they're interviewing them, questioning them. There is no lawsuit, but if at the end of this, if they retrieve enough information in this process, this probing process, to where they feel that they can then levy a lawsuit against, it wouldn't be against necessarily him suing the league, it'd be the Players Association suing the NFL for essentially a breach in contract for collusion. So if they can prove collusion, he would probably be awarded a lot of money, and they couldn't prevent him from having a job. But essentially, right now, there is technically nothing that is preventing him, in theory, from having a job, other than saying collusion. Again, actually, a CFL team holds his rights, and they've requested for months. Over a month, going on months, if he was going to report or not, which he has not. And I'm not sure if his agent has communicated with that CFL team or not. But last I heard, they had not communicated back if he was reporting or not, and he had not reported. So it's kind of a situation whereas, he probably will not play again in the NFL for one reason or another. But yeah, I agree. With the sentiment of essential argument is, how much longer do I have to watch these mediocre backup quarterbacks fumble around a football field before I can see a guy who played in a Super Bowl on the field again? So I get the sentiment behind it. All I was saying is, Green Bay is not really the target for that. They're just not your audience. They're not the team to be saying, well, why don't you have him? Because Green Bay just doesn't do that. That's just not their thing.
Well, let's be honest. Forget Green Bay for a second. Let's be honest. Colin Kaepernick is being blackballed by the NFL.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely being blacklisted.
The nation, because you've got 32 teams, 3 quarterbacks per team. That's 96 guys. Are you telling me that there are 95 better quarterbacks than Colin Kaepernick available in the NFL? No freaking way.
I mean, the Browns have went through, 4 this year already?
Better guys. Are you telling me that there's even 32 better guys than Colin Kaepernick? No way. He's being blackballed. He's being, kept out of the league. Now, is that their prerogative? Yes, it is, because they're owners. There's nothing in the Constitution of the United States. There's nothing in anything that says that he has to be allowed to play in the NFL. But if I'm a football coach in the NFL, I'm going to my owner and going, if you're the coach at Jacksonville Jaguars and You're trying to piece together a team with Blake Bortles, who, at best, can just kind of manage the game. Aren't you asking for Kaepernick? I mean, the Texans, oh my gosh. Matthew, Tom Savage is horrible. He's a train wreck.
Yeah.
You can't bring Colin Kaepernick into camp. At least give him a tryout. Now, the other side of this that we don't know about is what are Kaepernick's demands? Because I think that's also a factor here. That he's probably making demands that might not be amenable.
Well, that's the thing is, he wants starter money. That's what he wants. Because before he, so there was just to kind of give some backstory.
The Denver Broncos.
Yeah. He was making 14. He was making 14 with San Francisco, and Denver said that they would accept the trade to take on Colin Kaepernick, but they wanted to restructure his contract to where he was making $7 million instead of $14 million, and he said no. Which again, I don't have a problem with that, especially when you're paying Chase Daniels $13. When Chase Daniels in the league is making $13 as a backup for, I don't even know who the hell he's a backup for now. He was with, I think it was with Philly as for Carson Wentz, but I think he's gone from there, and Nick Foles is the backup in Philly right now. I don't know where they jettisoned him off to. I can tell you it's not Kansas City, because Kansas City is Mahomes, and then someone else. I don't remember who else. Not Chase Daniels, though. But from what I know, he's in the league. It might be Washington, but I can't remember exactly where it was. But he's making $13 million a year as a backup. So to say that Colin Kaepernick, a starter, who'd probably be the starter right now, I don't think without question, in Denver, making $7 million, it's kind of asinine. It's saying, it's really the league asking you to take advantage of him because they understand that he's in a situation. And I think him doing that and him trying to stand up for his value and trying to get what he's worth, what he agreed to, that in that process, I think the league looked at that and said, listen, if you're not going to come work for nothing, you're not going to get to work because we don't want to put up with what you're about and what comes with you. We don't care if you're scoring touchdowns or not. And again, that's kind of where the league's owners are butthurt about. And they said, if you're not doing it on our terms, we're not going to even bring you in. I think it is. Again, that's kind of the question. Again, and a lot of people are saying, well, he wasn't even trying to be a quarterback. I've just had some people saying, why would they even subpoena Jerry Jones? Jerry Jones, for all intents purposes, is the assistant commissioner of the league for all intents purposes, because for the most part he represents a large faction of interest within the NFL. So this year Goodell's contract is coming up, and everybody but him were voting to renew his contract. He said no. Now all he needs 24. I think it's up to where he needs 2 more owners to say that they won't renew his contract and Roger Goodell's contract will expire, and then they can replace him. They only need 24 or 32 owners. So that's just it. Jerry Jones swings a pretty big stick when it comes to things that happen in the league. And again, if we're going to talk about collusion within the league, Jerry Jones is going to know and have some understanding about it. And this is why they're subpoenaing
90 seconds
and asking for that. We're about 60 seconds from going into the overtime segment. If you guys still want to call in and listen, we can entertain some phone calls too. 347-237-5539. But that's kind of the backstory on Kaepernick. But go ahead and finish what you were saying.
Well, I mean, I've got to bail here too. I've got to sign off in a couple minutes.
60 seconds.
I just feel like Kaepernick's being, isolated as a symbol of what he did. And we've talked about this before. I think you and I both talked about this. I talked about this on Good Morning as well. Is that Kaepernick was exercising his free speech rights. I mean, what he did was exactly what the flag stands for, is to say, you have freedoms under this. And now, I don't agree with what he did, okay? Don't get me wrong. I don't agree with it. But what he did is protected under the Constitution. So people criticizing him for what he did are criticizing the rights under which we all live. And so it's a very complicated issue. And I think he's a fine football player. And he was, I think that he's being totally discriminated against for a number of reasons. And I think that he should have a place in the league. Now, I'm not an owner. And so I'm not sure the owners are colluding against him as much as making individual decisions based on their own perceptions of what signing him. But Michael Vick got another chance. Michael Vick signed with the Eagles. Why can't and Colin Kaepernick did nothing. And Colin Kaepernick, by the way, is a great citizen. He gives lots of money to charities, and I don't get it. I just don't. So my feeling is that he must be making demands on his end that aren't amenable to the team, because at the end of the day, they all want to win football games. And if you want to win a football game, Colin Kaepernick is going to win you football games. I mean, so there must be something else here that I'm not.
As far as the dollar amount,
privy to, right?
All I can tell and all I know from the sources and information that I have is that what he's looking for is money that's comparable to starter money, or the money that he was getting, probably in the neighborhood of 13, 14, 15 million a year. Again, that's not even a franchise tag. From this is what I understand. Again, the exact dollar amount, I don't know, but he wants to be paid like a starter in the league. And then on top of that he has agreed that he's not going to do any more kneeling or the protests as far as with the flag and the anthem, but he will not end he will not relinquish his pursuit of the cause that he is fighting for. So he's not going to stop any of his other stuff off the field that is pursuing, the equal rights. But what he has agreed to is, hey, I'm not going to kneel anymore. So that's what the thing is. He's not going to do the kneeling and the protests during the anthem that has pissed people off. He's said that he's willing to do that. He wants to come in and play football, and it's just obviously it's caused a bigger firestorm, and the owners are just looking at the firestorm that was caused by the initial situation. Unfortunately, it's kind of a situation where it looks like that players' misconduct, depending on what it is, I mean, things that are much more grotesque, that are actual crimes, could be committed, and they could still withhold or retain or find employment with the NFL versus simply a non-violent protest. So it obviously has done something to hit an emotional spot with a group of people that clearly have their own ego and and or pride that they feel that is hurt. So it seems like probably from the owner's point of view that this is something that they're doing out of principle against somebody that has created disruption in their organization, that has, what they're saying, has lost them money. And again, overall, the NFL is a little down on ratings from normal ratings, which again they were kind of down last year because of an election year. This is a year following an election year, which is midterms, so it's still kind of, they're historically kind of a little bit lower. However, Monday Night Football, which is on a network that is kind of, they're not going to be able to afford to keep Monday Night Football, ESPN, has actually been either up or pretty much flat as far as the ratings go. So that's still working. And the numbers for Thursday Night Football are significantly up, being after the 10-game contract that they got with Amazon and Twitter as well. So it's kind of one of those funny things, when the NFL is kind of the only thing on. It seems like a lot of people tune in. When it's not the only thing on, they're trying. I guess it's working a bit more. I don't know, but I don't know. It's kind of a tough thing to kind of gauge. I just want to mention this, by the way. I did see just before we came on the air, I meant to say it in the opening dialogue, but the former Major League Baseball player, pitcher Roy Halladay, passed away in a plane crash today. So that was one of those regrettable pieces of news that came out of today. That I was.
Yes, that was. I've been watching that story tonight. That's wow. That's one of the things that puts yourself in perspective when you go, this aggravated me today, but yeah, he's come on, and obviously his teammates are chiming in on what a great person he was, and we obviously we're praying for his family tonight, his loss, and not only that, Matthew, but the church killing in Texas over the weekend was distressing, and obviously all of us are mourning over that. That was, these mass killings are taking its toll on us, I think, as a people. Las Vegas and San Antonio, and it's just, and then Virginia Tech. I mean, I went to Virginia Tech, and I went to classes in Hampton Hall where most of the victims were killed in 2007. I mean, it's a world in which you live, but it's wow, it's a tough thing to reconcile between our day-to-day lives and all these things that are happening, in the world. So, but I got to roll, man. So, the college football playoffs will go on, and these other things will happen. And
do you have a couple minutes to go over? Because I wanted to talk about a network thing, because we were talking about the broadcasting rights. Today, there were discussions that Disney was interested in purchasing a portion of 21st Century Fox. That would not include Fox Media.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I watched. Yeah, I was into that yesterday in great detail.
But I think because of antitrust, they can't buy the Fox Media because they already own CBS and ESPN. But
what they're really focusing on are the production and content aspects what is on the table for that deal are the Fox News, Fox Sports, the channels.
The Fox Business, yeah. Those are not.
They're focusing more on the
the Hollywood side.
They're focusing more on the movie production aspect and the production pieces, the actual production, the content production pieces. But the local channels and the Fox News and Fox Sports are off the table because I think they probably would have wanted them, but they don't think they could actually acquire them based under antitrust.
Now here's this. Let me throw this sort of scenario out here. So I heard today a theory of who should buy 21st Century, the media portion of Fox. Clay Travis from Outkick the Coverage proposed today that the NFL should purchase the media side of Fox, essentially putting a position where, again, half their games are already on Fox. They would control Fox, FS1, FS2, which again puts them in the business for college football. Now they're controlling some of college football rights. And then on top of that, Fox News and Fox Business, which is allowing them to channel other programming and getting revenue from that programming. So now, being in the situation where they're not having to sell rights to half the league, they own the rights and can broadcast the rights through Fox without having to pay, without having to do the business through the large sums of money. And if ESPN or I guess CBS, NBC wants to bid on the other half or part of the league, they could, but they essentially wouldn't necessarily need them. They could stick with just going through Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports 2, and the NFL Network for all their broadcasting, and then you sell the rights to either Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and the Super Bowl to try to find other options of bringing it in if they wanted to sell the broadcasting rights. So it was an interesting thing. And the thing is, it's like, so the question is like, is the NFL big enough? Well, the combined value of the NFL is essentially $74.5 billion. $74.5 billion. Whereas Fox, they're saying that Fox currently, the media portion is worth 10.2, but would sell for 15.5. So acquiring Fox Media would be approximately 15.5, according to Forbes. That's what the sales price approximately would probably be for Fox Media. So it's an interesting little scenario how that could mix up, and the NFL could essentially get in the business of broadcasting, which they have already done, but on a different stage where they would start bringing in or broadcasting content that was not strictly stuff that they produced. So they would they could broadcast, they would have rights to college football, which is this time of year the second most popular television program outside the NFL. And then also the most watched news program, which is obviously Fox News. And then Fox Business isn't too far behind there. It's kind of same audience, more or less. So it'd be interesting. What do you think what would you think about I doubt the NFL would do that, but what do you think of that scenario?
Well, they have the money, but the whole deal with this is a content play, and the NFL has one content, and that's NFL, and they already have some evidence for that. And it's interesting, but I'm not sure Fox was. I mean, I'm not sure the NFL has enough. It's a business person. I'm not sure that the NFL has enough ROI to say we're going to pay this much for this piece of Fox just to create this amount of content. I mean, it's interesting. And I listened to a long conversation yesterday on CNBC by David Faber and those guys that know what they're talking about. I don't. There's a play there for the NFL in that respect, but it's interesting. But I do think Disney is going to take over a significant portion of. I think that deal's going to get done, and we'll see what happens with the rest of Fox. But the whole the NFL rights and all those things are rising, and the whole essence of this deal is that Fox can't acquire enough scale for them to compete. They have 39% of I think it's Sky Bet in Europe. They wanted to get the rest, and they couldn't get it. They can't get the scale, and as we know with Walmart and Home Depot and Amazon, eBay, it's all about scale, right? I mean, it's all about scale, and Disney has scale, okay, and Fox is not a scale, and so it's the shrink to grow concept of get rid of what you can't get scale on, and take control of what you can get scale on. And so what Fox is trying to focus on is the things that they can actually grow. And so I think it's a good deal. I mean, obviously the markets have been very receptive to this. Yesterday, when this was announced, both Disney and Fox stocks went up, which is very rare when these things come to light, because usually the acquirer's stock goes down and the acquisition stock goes up. In this case, they both went up, and so so I think there's real receptiveness to this for both parties, and so I think Fox is going to just scale down and focus on what they do really well. I mean, Fox News is highly rated. I'm not going to make an editorial comment, but on the content. But they make money, right? I mean,
yes.
And
that was my point there.
The local channels make money, and they have the NFL, and they've got all sorts of stuff going on, and they do a really good job. And then they got Major League Baseball and World Series, all that kind of stuff. So that's where they're going to focus, and they're going to give the studios back to Disney because they can't make enough movies to really make a difference, and Disney makes tons and tons of movies and all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, that's where we are. And so, but from the sports perspective, Fox is going to retain that. The Murdochs are going to retain those assets. Now, what happens, going forward if they decide to repackage those and sell them to somebody else? I don't know. But right now, that's the deal. But the deal has not been finalized. There's just talks, right? I mean, that's all there is. There's just conversations. So
so it would be like, so the 20th Century Fox would Disney be interested is the 20th Century Fox parts is like Fox Movie, the television studios, such like the cable shows, not news media, not the sports media, the shares of Hulu. There's shares in DirecTV. Like that's what they're looking for because
what they want are the content production assets, right?
Time Warner,
which right now are a big deal because they want to because they were going to compete with Netflix and Hulu and with Amazon Prime. They want to be able to stream their own content, and that's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's and you and
I mean, well, if they acquired that, if they would actually own shares of Hulu. If Disney, that's the thing is that's the strategic angle here, because Disney said that earlier this year that they were considering pulling out of Netflix, and Netflix was like, "Oh no, we don't want to lose the Disney content because that's part of the movie content." But Netflix is doing well enough in the original content category that they're not going to lose all that much there. They can try to look at a different angle, but Disney was thinking about coming out with their own version of Netflix that's Disney, but if they acquired Hulu, and this is what the play is here, if they acquired Hulu, they're already established in that realm, so there's not a lot of brand that they have to build up. They're just moving content and allowing content there. So that means Hulu brings you ESPN, CBS, all the Disney channels, the things that come with Disney. So acquiring Hulu puts them in a unique position and really delivers a punch to Netflix and to Amazon and Apple, who's trying to stream now as well too, because it puts them in direct competition with being able to have owning a huge amount of content, owning Marvel, and that having, again, Fox owns X-Men, that portion of Marvel. They own X-Men and things that go with X-Men, but they would get X-Men to continue their collection of Marvel, but they're more interested in picking up, Family Guy, The Simpsons, Futurama, and shows like that are syndicated programming that are highly consumed content by a very wide demographic of people. That's what they want to consume. That's what they want to get. So buying these assets from, again, essentially what we're looking at here is Disney is willing to buy assets from 21st Century Fox, not scalable beyond where, trying to bounce off what you said, but at the same time, it's something that Disney can do more with. Right now, it's kind of, it's Fox is looking at it as a bunch of, collectibles in the house that are really cool, but Fox is looking to downsize to an apartment. They want their condo by the beach. They know what they want. It looks great. They know what this is why I kind of shoot down the NFL idea. They're not going to sell Fox Media because that's working. So,
Matthew, I have to roll.
Okay.
I got to go.
All right. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Kevin Kress.
See you next week. Bye. Yeah, bye.
All right. Kevin Kress, ladies and gentlemen. You can get his books, the P.K. Frazier novel series, over on Amazon. Just type in P.K. Frazier. They'll come up. But this is just kind of going back into what I was talking here about Disney. Disney's looking to acquire highly consumable content, something that doesn't necessarily has to be original, but it's something that they can sell and they can use. Again, because what they're trying to do is compete with Netflix. They already know that they can do original series. Hulu will give them avenues to push, sell, and provide avenues for their Disney products and the other things, Pixar, Lucasfilms, et cetera, right? They don't have to build out. See, that's one of the major reasons that companies acquire other companies that are in a certain market. This is why I said it would have been a huge move for Facebook to acquire Yahoo. Because Yahoo, I've always felt that was just a perfect move for them, because they have the news media side and they have the side of already established customer base with email that Facebook never really figured out and never really got going. So they would acquire those things. Respectable news media side that's done pretty well, and they could integrate that in, and having the email integrated in. I think that was a really good mix for Facebook. Obviously, AOL ended up acquiring that. AT&T acquired that. AT&T also acquired, which was in the final stages of acquiring Time Warner. Again, for those of you looking on the cable side, Time Warner, Bright House Communications, and Charter merged earlier or last year, finalizing the mergers this year, and became Spectrum. So Time Warner, which assets that they would be claiming there would be, again, I'm not really as familiar with that deal, but again, other assets that come with FX, with 21st Century Fox, is stuff like National Geographic. That is owned under Fox. Fox owns 21st Century Fox owns National Geographic Channel, owns Nat Geo Wild, Nat Geo Mundo. So again, there's another one. The cable assets, being Latin America, which is a co-owned with Paramount Pictures and Viacom. Okay, so that's a cable asset. Again, they're looking to bring in stuff like that. Universal, NBC Universal. So it's not really sure if that's something that's on the mix. But also when you're talking under that sort of umbrella, under Telesin, you're looking at DreamWorks. You're looking at Universal Studios. These are other studios that are in the mix. Paramount Pictures, MGM. These are other assets that are cable assets that are owned by Fox 21st Century. Again, I don't know if they can own DreamWorks, if they can buy enough portions of that. Again, some of these things get sticky because of antitrust. Again, that's how they couldn't pull off buying, Fox News and Fox Sports, because they own ESPN and they already own CBS. So it's being able to antitrust won't allow them. They want more diversity. Again, they own 30% of Hulu, so they want to get those stakes in Hulu, so then they can turn around and put that information, the content that they have, back on Hulu, and be able to streamline their efforts there against Netflix. Again, like I said, they own National Geographic Partners. They're a 73% interest holder in National Geographic. So, I mean, already some stuff that they've sold off. They sold off DirecTV, 34% of DirecTV. They sold off PhotoBucket, which is pretty well known. Some social media stuff. IGN was one of those kind of web brands and stuff that they sold off. Those had GameSpy and OneUp.com and AskMen and Team Xbox. So they owned those. They sold those off. They had a stake of the LA Dodgers. Again, those rights stuff got sold off. Sportsnet, they sold off 20% to Rodgers Media back in 2004. So they've had some assets, and they've been shown to kind of either allow some to pass. Like, for example, Fox Soccer, they've allowed it to pass. 2013, they just discontinued. So it was defunct. But there's a lot of assets there, and what exactly they're looking to bring in. The direct broadcast and satellite television, Sky UK, is pretty big, because Sky is probably the main it's probably the main premium television provider, kind of like HBO, Showtime is here in Europe. So if you're going to watch fights, if you're going to watch the NFL, like the Super Bowl, for example, those are going to be on Sky. So acquiring Sky means that you're getting a lot of avenues to premium television, either through pay-per-view or other subscriber. It's a subscriber-based setup. So again, there's a lot of money in that. So they're interested in stuff like that. This definitely puts Disney in a situation where they have a considerable control over certain parts of the market, and they can kind of maneuver different things. It leaves question to see what do companies like Netflix do? Can Netflix continue to create the same original television? And how do they find if Fox is consumed and Disney is consumed? What other avenues do they go down and look for? Are they going to have to look to try to team with something like HBO or Showtime to provide some of that content with their subscription base? And how much does that change what people pay per month? So again, it kind of changes things, the ramifications of television and how we watch it. There has been a lot of consolidation when it comes to companies. Bigger companies are buying smaller companies and buying a lot of their competition that really isn't finding ways to scale. So essentially what Fox is looking to do in selling off these assets is essentially what most high-end department stores do with TJ Maxx, Ross, Marshalls, stuff like that. They're selling them assets, they're giving them assets to redistribute or own in a different way. So they're going to be able to repurpose or redistribute those things. So Disney has kind of tried to position themselves to control or heavily influence, rather, a significant part of the market. Again, buying Marvel. That's one of the biggest brands when it comes to what you can do with entertainment for this generation and the last generation. The comic books are huge. Comic-Con is huge. Gets them in those avenues. The movie production behind it is huge. And then on top of that, Lucasfilms, the Star Wars, owning that. They've implemented that stuff into their parks. Disney is trying to work, from what I've understood, to implement the NBA in some fashion, an NBA attraction into their parks. It's going to be interesting to see how that functions, but I know for a fact. So there was a portion of Hollywood Studios here in Florida, in Orlando, I guess a celebration of Disney, in Hollywood Studios that used to be part of like a downtown area. Was right near the Muppets attraction. So what they've done, what they're doing, is they're repurposing that area and essentially building a portion of a city, of a planet, I don't remember exactly which one, from Star Wars there. So they are, and again, it's really close to the Star Wars. They have a Star Wars ride, and where they have the Jedi training for kids. So it's kind of interesting how they're implementing a lot of these things into their parks. They own a lot more land, so they can keep building and adding attractions on. But again, they were actually able to acquire the rights for Avatar. So the new Avatar movie is not too far from coming out, and they have an Avatar ride. From what I understand, I haven't been there since it opened in June, but I understand it's where A Bug's Life used to be. So it's there. So I'm assuming it's I don't know. I want to get on the ride. I want to go on the ride and see what that attraction is like. So, but it's in Animal Kingdom. So again, Disney's done a lot of interesting things, and I wonder if they would be able to get Universal, NBC Universal, or if there's antitrust issues there. That falls under the umbrella. Portions of that fall under the umbrella of 21st Century. So, but I want to move on to another topic here. I do see there's a lot of traction kind of going on with the Aaron Rodgers article I put out, and the question I proposed is essentially is this Aaron Rodgers? Was this the game 2 weeks ago against the Minnesota Vikings? Was that Aaron Rodgers' last game as a Green Bay Packer? It's tough to say. Again, as Kevin said, with face value, and what I say at face value, it's tough seeing Aaron Rodgers not in a Packers uniform. But at the same time, you would like to think that they'll spend whatever they have to on him, and that's why they've held such a meager roster to make sure that they can retain him. But again, like I said, on the flip side of that, if you're Aaron Rodgers and you know they've had a meager roster and they aren't putting pieces around you and haven't really put a bunch of pieces around you, and you are the reason for winning, what are they doing to help you out to not have to put so much of it on his shoulders? That's really the big question, because I don't know if this is so much different than kind of the story of Peyton Manning in Indianapolis, just not having an owner and a team that really are putting things around him to really win a Super Bowl. And it's kind of a question there in Green Bay. Are they doing that? I mean, Charles Woodson, he didn't like Green Bay. He did 2 stints in, his stints in Green Bay, 2 stints in Oakland, and he's ready to go back to better weather. The nightlife, there's a lot of reasons why people aren't tremendously thrilled about living in Green Bay. Especially guys that are from California, from Florida, from Texas, from places that have a nightlife, that have vacation spots. People would that are from areas that you vacation to generally like to live in areas you vacation to. You don't see a whole lot of people that are born or raised in Florida in California that say, "Hey, let me move to Wisconsin. Let me move to Fairfax." You really don't see that, right? You're not seeing people that want to move to Sioux Falls, right? Because you're from Fort Lauderdale, but let me move to Sioux Falls, or to Pella, Iowa. Look that one up. Yes, that's where the Pella windows are made, in Pella, Iowa. That's where they get the name. Pella Window Factory, Pella, Iowa. But you don't see a lot of that. So to think that Aaron Rodgers, a guy from California, played his football in California, has made his money in Green Bay, but this contract that's coming up, this opportunity that's coming up, again, this is the second big injury that he's run into. This is the second collarbone he's broken. He has to start looking. You would think that thing, had these big injuries that's taken me out for seasons before. What am I looking at on my contract? I mean, I believe he's due I think it's 18 or 19 million this year, 22 million next year. But if he opts out, which he can at the end of the season, once this new season starts, he can opt out of the contract, and he can test the open market. Again, SpotRec is saying 28.3 million, I believe is what I had in the article there. Somewhere around there. It's all relative, but I think he could probably fetch over 30 million. If they're bidding on him starting at 28, If Matt Stafford makes 27 and he's the highest paid player in the NFL right now at 27 million a year, Aaron Rodgers to fetch 30 million, 3 more million a year is not far-fetched at all. Again, a guy that is the single most valuable player in the league and moves the line more than anybody else in the league. So, again, it's just, looking at that, it's tough to picture. But when you start to peel back the layers, it starts to seem more and more likely. Again, this isn't some sort of conspiracy theory sort of thing. It's just as simple as you got the best player in the league that has the option to move pretty much anywhere in the league with pretty much any team in the league that's going to be willing to throw money to him, and he'll be able to pick and choose where he goes. So imagine him in situation. I mean, yes, Deshaun Watson was an unexpected blessing there in Houston. But you don't think the Texans, after paying for what they paid for Brock Osweiler, that they would say, "Oh, so I got option. I can bid on Aaron Rodgers"? You don't think that they do that? You don't think Jacksonville's looking at that? You don't think Miami wants to look at that? San Francisco? Shit. Los Angeles Chargers? Think about LA. You don't think the Chargers would look at an option of bringing the best player in football to Los Angeles? Just think about the Chargers. The team that nobody wants in LA. Bringing the best player in the game to LA. Like, how don't they bring in fans if they sign it? Just think about that. What is the value of the Chargers with Aaron Rodgers? I'm just saying, you go from San Diego to Los Angeles, then you bring in Aaron Rodgers? I mean, where's the limit there? Rivers we know he's on his last leg. His third leg, probably. It's his last leg being his third leg. Okay? I'm just saying, again, closing off the thought, which some people have, some very reputable people in this industry have just closed off the thought of Aaron Rodgers leaving or opting out next year because of why. Oh, no, he wouldn't do that. It's Green Bay. He's a Packer. I don't know. Go back to LA. Being back in home in California. Playing for the Chargers. Making $32 million a year, I'm guessing. Melvin Gordon. I mean, you got Joey Bosa on your defense. I mean, it's not like it's the worst situation. And honestly, with the head coach and kind of where they're going, maybe it's a better situation. I don't know. I'm posing questions. I don't have the answer. But I'm just saying, all I'm saying is, this is something worth thinking about. It's not breaking news. It's something that's been right there in front of everybody's face. I just have a question out there. I have an article out there. Again, take it for what it's worth. But this could be something of worth thought and of value. So, But let me move on. I want to get into my picks for college football. I know a bunch of you are getting on me about my picks for college football from last week. I didn't do bad. I lost on the Penn State game. Penn State bouncing back. I had my gut said Iowa winning by a slim margin, and they won a lot. So this week we have Washington at Stanford. I have Washington winning at Stanford. We have number 12 versus number 13, Michigan State versus Ohio State. I think right here is where Ohio State really has to bounce back and Ohio State has to show they're better than what people thought they were. It's tough to see at this point Michigan State losing just because they've been able to do what people hadn't expected of them. But this is kind of where the expectations creep in. And I have Ohio State beating Michigan State, slim margin. Same thing, Penn State bounces back against Rutgers, which, as you heard earlier in the show, statistically with 3 losses, they could potentially still win the East. I think they get throttled by Penn State. Then we have Oklahoma State, Iowa State. Now, if Iowa State were to win this game, don't be surprised. We saw what they did against Oklahoma, keeping it to a low-score game. They ran into a situation in Blacksburg last week against West Virginia. Again, in a place that's tough to win. They didn't win. I'm picking Oklahoma State to win this game against Iowa State by a slim margin. It's not going to be a high-scoring affair the same way against Oklahoma. Iowa State has a better defense, and their coach is able to conceal some of these things. So, again, don't expect this to be the same kind of basketball score as you've seen last week with Oklahoma. UCF hosts Connecticut at home. I think they win pretty easily there. North Carolina State, ranked 23rd, goes to Boston College. This is going to be a tough game for North Carolina State. Boston College seems to find ways to win games like this. And they've done it, they do it every year to a couple of teams and kind of poke holes in their raft. This could be one of those games, and if it was upset games, I would have this be my upset game of the week. Boston College beating North Carolina State. If you're out there betting, you could bet this either way. North Carolina State is favored in this game, not by a ton, but I would say this would be my upset game of the week. Arkansas and at LSU. This will be a much better game than I think a lot of people think. I have LSU winning this game. Florida, South Carolina. I just want to say, obviously, I mean, we're really close to the Florida Gator market. I picked Missouri to win last week against Florida, right? They've been really gelling, and Missouri seems to be out of the rule. I didn't think it was going to be that. I thought with Randy Shannon that this defense, and particularly this defense, and maybe with a change at quarterback, that there might be some renewed energy in the Gators, that they would play with some different energy. But I have to say that the Gator performance that I seen last week was one of the most lackluster performances that I've seen by a Division I school in a very long time. They looked defeated in all aspects, and for all intents purposes, it looked like they were just going through the motions. South Carolina wins this game. I'd say that's a lock. Indiana, Illinois. I'm not going to go through all the Big Ten. I know Big Ten people get at me. I think Illinois could potentially pull off this win. They been doing really well, and they're playing 5 freshmen on each side of the ball, and they're getting the hang of this. So this could be a potential win. I was saying that against Illinois or against OSU, that this was the potential. That was the learning curve. We'll see what we're getting here. Nebraska goes to Minnesota. I don't think Nebraska loses this game. I have Nebraska winning against Minnesota, slim margin. Again, Lee, the quarterback, has played admirably. To be frank with you, it really hasn't been a whole lot of him the whole season. Even the struggles at the beginning of the season, a lot of the skills players were not catching the ball, So Lee, I think, has done a good job being his first year in this offense, and I don't think that he's really a lot of the problem. Although he has had pick sixes and he's made some bad decisions, he does have to work on some facets. I have Nebraska beating Minnesota by a slim margin. Virginia Tech goes to Georgia Tech. This will be a really good game. Again, Georgia Tech really is good in these games because they're unique offense. I have Virginia Tech winning that game. Georgia at Auburn. Again, with my pick earlier in the year, I have Georgia winning this. I'm sticking with it for my preseason pick. Georgia beats Auburn at home. The really interesting game, the trap game for Clemson, is this week against Florida State. They have Florida State at home. The Florida State defense last week was playing awe-inspired. They were flying around the ball, flying around the field, making plays. I mean, this Florida State defense looked like something you wanted to see last week. And I don't know what inspired him to play like that against Syracuse, but they won a very lopsided, one-sided game against a team that has done some home wrecking in the ACC this year. But I have Florida State playing it close and losing it close and building some hope in Tallahassee that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Clemson winning and not covering. Iowa at Wisconsin. This is the game that all Big Ten fans, no matter who your team is going to keep an eye of the score on. It's a 3:30 kickoff and could be the last chance that the Big Ten has to get a school in the college football playoff. Now, if you heard earlier in the show my hellacious prediction or the havoc that I would like to see is Wisconsin went out, Miami went out, and just kind of put the committee in a situation where they're choosing between an undefeated team and a one-loss Georgia or Alabama. Really a one-loss Alabama team. That's what I want the committee to really fester with. But I have Iowa winning this game close and killing the hopes of a national title or a playoff berth for the Big Ten and Wisconsin. All right. One game that some people think was going to be really big. USC goes to Colorado. I think actually USC struggles in the first half, but closes out this game. It won't be close. I have USC winning. Washington State, Utah. Utah is unique because they have a way of kind of causing troubles because they've bounced in and out of the rankings. I think Washington State finds a way to score enough to win in this game. 7 p.m. kickoff, Alabama at Mississippi State. Not a question. Alabama routs them. Purdue goes to number 25, Northwestern. I have Purdue beating Northwestern. Not an upset. Tennessee and Missouri. I have Missouri turning around, doing again this week to Tennessee what they did to Florida last week. I actually think that Missouri most likely will win out the rest of the year. All right. The two big games of this week. Notre Dame, Miami. I have Notre Dame winning a compelling game against Miami in Coral Gables. And I have Oklahoma beating TCU pretty handily. I don't think it's going to be that close of a game. I think Oklahoma wins by 10 points or more in that game. And that will wrap up my picks for this week. So be tuned. Actually, that wraps up the show for the week as well. So be tuned. Be sure to tune in next week here to the Cold Hard Truth on Sports radio show. You can go over to the website, the CHT on Sports. Upper left-hand corner, you click on Listen to hear this show and all the other shows on the GoLong Media Network. Tomorrow night we will have Take This L, hosted by Michael Brewer. And then Sunday, James Bell hosts the Boxing Source podcast. I wanted to get into Deontay Wilder's fight this weekend. He won in a first-round knockout over Bermane Stiverne, who still stands to be his toughest competition of his career. And he knocked him out in the first round. A guy that's basically been off for 2 years. Hasn't really fought since that fight. Came in, over 15 pounds heavier. Looked lethargic. Looked slow. Looked uninspired. Literally did not land a single punch in the fight. And was knocked out in 2 minutes and 59 seconds. Again, he was knocked down 3 times in the fight in the first round. I'll get more into that. I'll do a podcast on it, an individual podcast, because there's a lot more deeper-rooted issues within the sport of boxing that have to do with marketing, that have to do with endorsements that are bigger problems than just Deontay Wilder has, which he has a ton of. And I also have an understanding and some sources on why it is what it is. But that's all I got for this week. Follow us on social media at the CHT on Sports. You can get at me and follow me on social media at Matt Long Sports. I'm out.
Welcome to the cold, hard truth on sports.
I apologize in advance if I am out of line here.
Great sounds, boys. We're